Well, good Friday evening, folks. For the fourth night in a row, myself and meteorologist Stewart are joining you for extended weather alert coverage, with severe weather yet again impacting a good chunk of Hampton Roads into northeastern North Carolina. Today's threat is emerging from the west. You remember yesterday our threat was mainly focused down to the south along the Albemarle Sound. So now everybody getting in on the action. We've got numerous severe thunderstorm warnings across the area. On top of that, a watch for severe thunderstorms is up for the entire area until 11 o'clock tonight. Now, several of these warnings encompass the threat, the main threat, I believe, for some gusty, damaging winds. And we can look at some of these alerts from the Weather Service here. This large polygon that was just issued by the Weather Service until 7:15 for about 40 more minutes covers a very large area. And typically when we see a warning polygon issued that's of such a large size, that's typically indicative of the main threat being gusty, damaging winds. And we've already had a history with this particular cell that is now just to the east of I-95 producing wind gusts up to 65 to 70 miles per hour. On top of that, we've got very heavy rainfall that is partially responsible for pulling down some of those stronger winds to the surface and verifying there, so that could certainly cause some damage. And the other thing with this, why it's so far out into areas that's not even seeing impacts yet, is because it is moving so fast. In fact, the latest observation on here is this one is moving to the east at 50 miles per hour, which is a bit slower than the last warning. It had it moving at 60 miles per hour. You can see its radar indicated for hail, maybe up to an inch. That hasn't really been an issue so far with these cells that have developed, but the max wind gust now is down to 60. Earlier, when it's a little bit farther to the west, was up to 70 miles per hour. Again, this now does encompass cities like Franklin, over to Suffolk, Isle of Wight County, Southampton, Surrey, and Sussex. So again, Isle of Wight, you got some lead time here, but we can look on radar of where the strongest winds are, and we'll put a storm track on it to kind of give you a better feel for when it will be arriving in areas with those impacts, which is going to be the dangerous gusty winds. So out by Wakefield, so we're pretty close to the radar site here, so we can get a good sample of the winds that may be verifying closer to the ground, and they've come down considerably. We're looking at maybe 40 to 45 miles per hour. This is, again, radar indicated. Here's the radar site there. But regardless of that, we'll take that couplet of the strongest of the winds, and we'll put a storm track on it due east at 50 miles per hour to kind of give you a general feel for where this will be moving in the short term. So right over the radar site, due east. Here's some cities and towns for you. We've got Ponds at 6:52, Smithfield just at the top of the hour pretty much at 7:02, Newport News at 7:15, and eventually, if it does hold together, Norfolk right around 7:25. Again, this would be for the onset of potential severe thunderstorm wind gusts, which are up and over 55 to 60 miles per hour. This has had a history of producing very gusty winds. How about the hail threat in here? Well, we turn our hail track on, and we've got zero indication of any hail, at least through Southside. However, as we go up along the eastern shore in portions of Accomack and Northampton County, where there is another severe thunderstorm warned cell here, the latest info on that does put it up until 7 o'clock for another 23 minutes, Accomack and Northampton, right on the county line here. And they scaled it back because it is moving pretty quickly. In fact, the core of it now is just about to push offshore. But that did have a hail core signature with it. And you can see that here on radar. Let's get a close-up look near Exmoor, possibly seeing some hail. That's at least an inch in diameter. Yeah, so we're looking at an inch diameter, so that's around quarter size or golf ball size hail. And this particular cell here, again, it's just moving to the east of 13, just to the southeast of Exmoor right now. Now, it's pretty active in our area right now. We've got plenty of severe weather, most of which is just off to the west, that is building very quickly to the east. Now, Evan, we've been watching models here for the past couple of hours, and initially, I mean, you go back yesterday, and models were pointing to this scenario, right? We had a cluster of wind threat thunderstorms here coming on through around this timing. But then once the storms formed, the model struggled with it, and most of which showed it weakening as it pushed into this area. And we're just finding that is the opposite case this evening so far.
Yeah, I think they were struggling to really understand what all the dynamics were here. You know, we had temperatures today that were up into the low 90s. We had heat index values that were over 95 degrees. That's what it felt like outside. So we saw those thunderstorms firing up, and just because we had those hot temperatures, those dew points that were up near 70 degrees, I think they were really struggling to figure out, how unstable the atmosphere was here locally. Even the models that we run every hour, like the high resolution rapid refresh, the HRRR, was struggling to figure out what was going to happen with those thunderstorms as they work their way eastward. The other thing we've really noticed, Tim, has been the lightning with these storms. I'll go back to the live view and can see up here, I have lightning kind of turned off, so to speak, transparent. But, we're once again over 1,500 lightning strikes. That's up there in the top right-hand corner. And that's what we were seeing a couple of days ago, 1,500, getting at times close to 1,600 or 1,700. So these lightning strikes, very vivid storms once again. Some of these storms, like the one up along the eastern shore, has been showing some indications of some hail. So, let's get back into this thunderstorm. I wonder how much of this radar is being affected by the heavy rain actually at the radar site, if maybe it's coming down so heavy there that, we're not quite being able to get out and see all of the thunderstorms. Because I do want to go back and just sort of set the stage over the last 3 hours, and you'll be able to see kind of how these storms, or this whole line, it was such a large line out towards our west, and then as it worked its way eastward, really started to shrink across the area. So that's what kind of the models were hinting at, that it was going to that it was going to weaken. But even these storms moving at 50 miles per hour, that means they have 50-mile-per-hour winds with them, ahead of it. So that's, something that we're still tracking. Even though the whole line is gradually weakening, that wind still ahead of these storms and with the storms is still there. So I want to just kind of go back over what the warnings are that we have in effect across the area right now. The large warning that goes until 7:15, that is for Franklin, Suffolk, Greensville County, Isle of Wight, Southampton, Surrey, and Sussex County. That's the largest warning there because that whole line was so broad. Then we have the one up along the eastern shore that has the potential of that inch-size hail for Accomack and Northampton. And looking at it a little bit closer, I would say for the most part, Northampton County, with the exception of maybe just, again, north of Nassawadox, you're in the clear for this storm, and still some heavy rain on the backside as that updated sweep comes around. So still, even for Onancock, you're not under that warning, but that other part of the line is moving eastward. So Onancock, Parksley, up towards Horsey, Saxis, over towards Chincoteague Island, you still have a thunderstorm that is going to come your way. Peninsula, just a little bit of rain right now around Fort Eustis. And then we have that big line that is emerging here in northern Southampton County around Ivor down towards Black Creek, Cortland, Barrett. We have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. So that's for that one that I was just talking about up there for the eastern shore. So that new severe thunderstorm warning coming in for Accomack County until 7:30. Well, I was talking about that line that was coming off the Chesapeake Bay over towards Onancock, up towards Saxis and Chincoteague Island. So that line is now one that we're tracking as well. So if you're up along the eastern shore in Accomack County, we have that warning as well. The rest of the area right now under a severe thunderstorm watch that is going to go officially until 11 o'clock based on the speed of these storms. I imagine that'll be dropped early once these storms move offshore. But again, a lot of lightning out there with these storms over the last hour. Gusty winds, that'll be the biggest threat, and there has been a little bit of hail with the storm up along the eastern shore. The other storms haven't had much of a history of hail, and we haven't seen anything in the form of rotation with these storms either, Tim.
Yeah, mainly a lot of wind energy here that these storms are taking advantage of with the intense daytime heating that we underwent this afternoon as temperatures climbed into the low 90s. Evan, you talked about storm movement here. Brand new warning that just put out. That cell now is moving at 50 miles per hour. The one to the south was progged at moving 40. The cell that's moving into portions of Isle of Wight, far western Isle of Wight, and eventually into Suffolk, you got plenty of lead time there. That cell is moving at 50. Now, this cell down here, this is our strongest cell for sure at the current time. This warning is up from until 7 o'clock for another 17 minutes. But this cell just cruised over Roanoke Rapids and I-95. This one is moving at 65 miles per hour. So we can expect wind gusts at least of 65, even though they're saying max wind gusts here of maybe around 60 miles per hour or so. But look at the amount of area this has really covered. This is an hour loop. It was up by Farmville an hour ago, and now it's cruising and almost clearing Emporia. And it does have an easterly trend to it, but there's definitely a southeast component as well, as we're seeing the whole line kind of contract and focus its energy into what looks to be now 2 supercells. We've got one that's just north of Franklin. You can see clearly defined between Wakefield and Franklin there, and this, the stronger of the 2, between Roanoke Rapids and Emporia, right along the North Carolina-Virginia state line. That one cruising into Southampton County, or excuse me, Northampton County in North Carolina, but we'll clip portions of Southampton County in Virginia here. Right now, and in the short term, with it moving so fast, it's going to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time, and it is moving into a relatively untapped atmosphere there. And then we see a considerable gap here. The peninsula pretty much getting spared, with the exception of far western James City County and Williamsburg that had a gusty shower that was weakening as it blew through there. We're not seeing much of anything there right now. And why do we think that could be the case? Well, the atmosphere was pretty effectively capped earlier today, and that's essentially a temperature inversion higher up that prevents the bubbling up of storm clouds to really facilitate storm development and storm growth. They run into that and then they kind of dissipate. If daytime warming is strong enough, if the updraft gets strong enough, it could punch right through that cap, which is what happened off to the west with these cells. But certain areas, the cap remains a little bit stronger, and the overall convection or upward movement isn't as strong to overcome that cap. So that could be likely what's inhibiting any storm growth along the peninsula. So we welcome that. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Off to the south and east here, or south and west, excuse me, we've got the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning with now looks to be a weakening cell here that's over portions of Isle of Wight and Suffolk here. It's a large warning area, and you can see as this dives down, it's got more of a southeast turn to it. I would say that probably Smithfield is going to miss out on this cell. It looks to be diving in the far southwestern portions of Isle of Wight and getting into the city of Franklin, pretty much coming right up on you, and then eventually clipping even maybe downtown Suffolk and southern portions of the city there before it dives into northeastern North Carolina. But this particular warning here is up until 7:15, so we've got another 30 minutes on it. Let's get a check on the wind speeds as depicted by radar here, and you could certainly see the outline of straight line winds. Very obvious right here, pretty much to the north, to the northwest of Central Hill, down to Black Creek, down to Franklin. Now, radar estimates of wind speeds in these areas. Let's go back here and show you some wind speeds. Yeah, so we're up to 60 miles per hour or so in this cell. So this is a Boeing line of thunderstorms with very gusty straight line winds in them. Now, what we have to keep an eye out for is when we get a Boeing line of straight line winds is sometimes you can start to see some of these winds pinch off and try to create a microcirculation. So this is maybe what we have to watch here as you get up just to the west of Windsor. You can see almost that kind of that little bit of an inflow developing there. Let's see if we switch up. We see anything. So it's pretty obvious there. There's a little bit of maybe an inflow, something trying to pinch off and have some tight circulation there. But that's something to monitor here as it's heading towards Windsor right now. But extremely gusty winds in this particular cell at this time, along with very heavy rainfall in this cell that is moving into Isle of Wight and over into Suffolk. And then this puppy down here, this one has probably got a little bit of hail, a very small hail signature. But again, it's going to be the gusty wind situation in this cell as well. That's heading towards Seaboard in portions of Northampton in North Carolina, seeing this issue, and then maybe even eventually getting over into portions of Hertford if it does hold together there, as this is the stronger cell that we have on the board right now. You can even see this is starting to bow as well. You can see this signature here, this is Boeing pretty much right along 158, headed towards Conway, Severn, Boykins, threading the needle here right along the state line. Lots of lightning and thunder, too. Kind of revisiting the same scenario that we had the past couple nights, which is so much moisture content, that we've got a highly electrified storm here with the cloud. You know, let's look and see what, I know, Evan, you like doing this, the cloud tops.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at some of these. You know, pushing 50,000 feet storm tops here. Those are huge thunderstorm clouds, and of course they've got lots of lightning and would likely be producing some hail here, but not seeing that so much of an issue there right now, just south and southwest of Seaboard, with some of the highest cloud tops we've seen in our last couple days of doing some storm coverage here. We still have the ongoing warning here up along the eastern shore for this line that, if you look over the last 30 minutes, was a little more fragmented and fractured and is beginning to fill on in all along this line as it barrels to the east at 50 miles per hour. Now, all of Accomack County is under the severe thunderstorm warning. Going to the south are portions of Northampton County near Exmoor. On the tail end of this severe thunderstorm warning, the core of that storm is now pushing east and offshore. So an all clear there from the impacts from that particular cell there. We'll see if there'll be any more that develop off to the west of where that is right now. And to the north along the Maryland line, seeing some more gusty winds and strong to severe thunderstorms in that area. But right now, it's going to be these last two cells, Evan. I think these are going to be our last two supercells. This one looks to be possibly weakening. This one maintaining as of right now. Typically, when you get these two in close proximity to one another, one is going to start robbing the energy from the other. So it looks to be this one that's maintaining intensity here and maybe on an upward intensification trend. This one could be on the downtrend. Although, when we were looking at it here on wind speeds, we do have some very pronounced gusty winds now in southern portions of Isle of Wight moving through Franklin. And you can even see these notches here that are developing. That's going to be something to monitor here, too, as we go through the next 30 minutes before it clears this area and maybe cycles down a little bit in intensity, Evan.
Yeah, and we are still seeing quite a bit of lightning with these storms. The latest number I have is over 1,800 strikes within the past hour. I've also been watching some of the storm reports, and there have not been a lot of storm reports. We just got one up along the eastern shore. This is coming in from Willis Wharf. Trees and power lines down. That's with that warned storm up there right along the Accomack Northampton County line. So this is just towards the south of Exmoor where we saw that strong thunderstorm move through. We'll take you back, and you can see there that's also when we saw some of that pink indicating the possibility of some hail. So right there, just south of Exmoor, that's where the strongest part of the storm was. And we can take you back, and that is just on the edge of the radar's scope. So it's kind of not going to be able to show you the best, but we can see in there, let's see, the radar is estimating 40, 45 miles per hour winds, but that's about the time that we had that storm report come in, right there around 6:35 of trees and power lines down. That's the only report so far here locally. I'll widen it out, show you that this line does have that history of producing some damage out towards our west and some of that hail just north of Farmville. And so numerous reports of trees down. That's what all those icons mean, trees down in the vicinity of Oral Oaks Road. That was around 5:30. So these storms, as we have mentioned, they are moving so very quickly, at 60 miles per hour. So they're going to be through the area quickly. That's the good news. Of course, a lot of events going on this evening. We've got the kickoff to the Chesapeake Jubilee. We've got the Greek Festival in Norfolk. So many things going on today and this afternoon and this evening that I know a lot of folks were worried about those events. The one line down there that's moving through Northampton County, moving through Fasons, that one still has that bow on it. So even though the radar is not showing as much in the winds, you're starting to get a little bit farther away. That certainly has that bowing line right there. So that's getting ready to move into Hertford County. So that speed on that one, let's see, what was that? Was that 60? Yeah, that was the one that's moving at 65 miles per hour. So if we track that at 65 sort of to the southeast, let's get in there. That will bring it, clear that off. That will get it here around Severn, around 656, Manola 701, St. John 705, and Ahoskie around 710. And it certainly looks like that one will hold together. Some questions about the northern one. Like Tim was saying, that southern storm, it looks like it's robbing some of the energy.
Evan, I actually want to talk about that real quick because let's go over to Max 2 here. So this is the velocities on there as it's hitting Windsor right now in Isle of Wight. Look at some of these radar indicated wind speeds. 50, 55, 65, even close to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, a potential here as this is sweeping on through at 50 to 60 mile storm movement itself. Within that, gusts up to 70 miles per hour moving on into Windsor. Now, I have been checking power outages here and I haven't zoomed in on Windsor, not seeing any reports yet, but in the past here, as you get into Northampton County in North Carolina, they are reporting, looks to be over 1,000 outages there. As you get closer to Roanoke Rapids, though, it jumps to over 3,000 outages from that cell that just moved on through that Evan was talking about on the southern side there. So look, they just extended that warning here
They just upgraded the warning to considerable damage, the one moving through Windsor and Suffolk now.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense.
So, seeing what you were seeing.
And a tornado possible,
yeah,
too.
Tornado possible. They were saying that while there's not that spin out there, you just have that fast movement with the wind, something could sort of spin up.
Yeah.
So that's certainly the strongest thunderstorm that we have in the area right now.
And what they're monitoring too here, so we were talking about this just a couple minutes ago, all these little notches that are developing along this main line of the straight line winds. You can see these little notches here, and sometimes those can pinch off and start to spin, warranting the losing words here. The issuance of a tornado warning potentially, but it's interesting that they didn't put the actual tag on the warning. It still doesn't have that red tinge to it across this area, but just very gusty winds as you get from Franklin up to Windsor, approaching. It's right on the Suffolk city line now and approaching fast into downtown Suffolk. So I'm actually going to ask our directors if we are getting close to a break or so. Hopefully, we're going to want to do probably a quick cut in here on this to warn folks. We are on a break right now, so let's go ahead and jump on over to on air to talk about this warning. Good evening, folks. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with you alongside Evan Stewart. We are tracking severe thunderstorms moving across Hampton Roads, and we want to let you know about a brand new warning here that's out for the city of Suffolk. It is just to your west right now, and there is considerable potential here for some damaging wind gusts. Radar indicated wind gusts could exceed 70 miles per hour. So let's go big on the maps here. I want to show you where the gustiest of the winds are. On radar, we're getting a good sample of this, and we can see it very clearly defined as a straight line wind threat here, with the strongest of the winds from Windsor down along the Suffolk city line, southern portions of Isle of Wight down to Franklin. Now, radar indications here do pinpoint some wind speeds in these areas that are up and over 40 to 50 miles per hour. These are down a bit. Just a minute ago, they were sampling close to 70 mile per hour winds. There's downtown Suffolk. This cell is moving at around 60 miles per hour, so it'll be up on you in just a few minutes. So if you're in this area, prepare yourself for some very gusty winds that could cause some damage. Now, that's not the only cell that's out there. We've got numerous other severe thunderstorm warnings out here. One that's off to the south that will be impacting Hertford and over into Gates as well. This is also starting to bow and has mainly a gusty, damaging wind threat with it, although I can't completely rule out some isolated instances of hail. And then to the north, peninsula's quiet. Along the eastern shore, though, we've got a little more action in Accomack County, an ongoing severe thunderstorm warning here. That's quickly pushing off towards the east as well. We are streaming now on 13 News Now Plus, and we'll be back intermittently, warranting the issuance of more warnings. But until then, we'll send you back over to World News Tonight. All right, folks, we're back. We just jumped over on air to do a cut-in on this warning that was upgraded to a considerable wind threat. You can see the reasoning why here on our velocity signature on our radar. We are not too far away from the radar site, so getting a pretty good sampling or signal of what may actually be verifying a little bit closer to the ground. Radar here was sampling 50, 60, close to 70 mile per hour winds as this blew through Windsor. Right now, it's set up right along the Suffolk city line and approaching central and southern portions of the city of Suffolk. So I want you to be prepared if you're watching for some extremely gusty winds that could take down trees, cause power outages, and certainly cause some damage in those areas. Now, that's not the only cell here. We've got another one here that was expanded because it's moving at 65 miles per hour, covering a lot of ground over a rather short amount of time. And this also has a pretty pronounced straight line wind threat. You can see that narrow band from Murfreesboro all the way down towards Lasker and Rich Square, with likely gusts exceeding 50 to 60 miles per hour. This is building into Hertford County here in the short term. In fact, let's get some actual numbers from the Weather Service in terms of how fast this is moving. This one here that's in Suffolk now, this has a forward movement of 60 miles per hour. Could have some hail, although we haven't really seen much in the way of any hail signatures on these southern storms, though. Very weak signature here as you get over to Northampton and North Carolina. But aside from that, it is mainly going to be a pronounced damaging wind threat in these areas. To the north, we still do have ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings in Accomack, and just about to expire this one at the top of the hour here in portions of northern Northampton. But that cell has moved clearly offshore, and the threat has passed for you there. Our focus and our concern is really going to go towards this cell here that is building towards through Windsor and now approaching downtown Suffolk right now. This will be the leading line of the strongest of the winds, so it's going to come at you fast with a forward movement of around 60 miles per hour, Evan. And this thing has been covering some ground. It was just out along I-95 less than an hour ago, and now it's moving through central Suffolk. So just considerable speed with these cells.
Yeah, and even when the storm is moving 60 miles per hour, that's an indication of some of the winds that you could expect with it. And yes, Tim, doing a great job monitoring that outflow or the winds with the actual storm. And again, we get in there into those dark yellows and almost into the tans. You're looking at those winds over 60 miles per hour in quite a few spots. And then as we head to that southern storm, you start to get a little bit farther away from the radar site. But the forecast, with that warning, is still saying the possibility of 60 mile per hour winds. So that line right now is just approaching Murfreesboro, working eastward. Turn off the lightning there and get the radar back. And so right now, just moving out of Northampton County into Hertford County, so around Severn, Conway, Murfreesboro, St. John. So if you're around Como, if you're in Winton, if you're in Ahoskie, that storm is headed your way, and that warning extends all the way down to Chowan County along the Chowan River. And just because this storm is moving so quickly right now, that one warning expires at 7 o'clock, as you saw it just disappear, moving at 60 miles per hour. So tracking that Boeing line here, that'll bring it towards Como around 7:06, Tar Heel 7:14, Mittensville 7:28, Sign Pine 7:29, and Belvedere around 7:35. If it holds together, and all signs right now looks like it will, then that other line, the one that is the strongest storm that has the considerable damage tag, so to speak, on it. And let's see, yes, considering, so that's the one, Southampton County, Isle of Wight, Franklin, and Suffolk. That's the warning there coming from the Weather Service. So Longview, Everett, Kings Fork. Let's head back up towards the eastern shore, because that one main storm has moved offshore for Northampton County, but we still have that storm that's just blowing through the eastern shore right now from the Chesapeake Bay over towards the Atlantic. Wachapreague just pushing off the coastline there. You're in the clear. Onancock is in the clear, but this is heading over towards Chincoteague and Assateague Island right there along 13, and is going to head off towards the east there over towards Chincoteague Island, and then even extended off towards the north just outside of our area. Notice there are some tornado warnings up there into Delaware, just south of Dover over towards Seaford and Millsboro. So that northern part of that line is also severe. So we've got kind of these two main lines moving through the south side of North Carolina, sort of this Boeing line. That's an indication of very, very strong winds. You can sort of see that backward C shape right through there. That's where you see the strongest winds, right on that leading edge of those Boeing lines. And that's why those are our two main warnings that we have out there right now. And again, we still have the severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock. It'll likely be canceled ahead of time. But that one storm that is just blowing through Suffolk, we said it was moving at around 60 miles per hour. So if I put on the tracker here with a speed of 60 miles per hour, it's sort of moving southeast, that would bring it towards Pungo around 7:31, and just off the coast, of Back Bay and the Wildlife Refuge around 7:40. So again, only about another 40 minutes for that storm. And then this other storm, if we track sort of that leading edge, that if it holds together, that would bring it towards Elizabeth City, coming up around 8 o'clock, and then over towards the Outer Banks if it holds together just after 8 o'clock. So these storms, again, are moving so quickly. And that's why, you have those gusty winds with them. Because they are moving so quickly, they're getting that bow shape, that backward C, working off towards the south and east. And back behind it, that's it. Once this line clears out, there is a chance that maybe we could see a couple of late showers or maybe an isolated thunderstorm into the early part of the overnight, around 2, 3 a.m. Some of the computer models were saying that. But once this line moves through, then we should be in the clear for a good part of the latter evening and into the overnight, Tim.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there's any new updates here from the Weather Service, because we're getting that straight line wind indicator here is approaching the far eastern extent of their, there it is. They now have extended the warning all the way out to the ocean front. Now that does include Portsmouth, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. I just want to quickly, before I get to that, so here is the leading edge of the strongest of the winds, moving at 60 miles per hour. So the strongest of the winds moving into Deep Creek around 7:11, Norfolk at 7:13, Benefit at 7:16, and Fentress at 7:19. So what we're going to do, Evan, go ahead and take it over for a minute. I would like our directors to get us set to go on air here for a minute to do a quick cut-in, to just talk about this brand new warning and break down the threats here. And then we're going to come back on over on the streaming side to talk a little bit more about it here. But this one is moving, 50 miles per hour. So it is covering some extensive areas here. Go ahead, Evan.
That's right. That's right. Yes, and you can see it has that considerable threat in there. You can see right there, the red that is showing up, indicating those maximum winds of 70 miles per hour. So that's why we are saying it has that considerable tag threat on it. Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, Camden, Currituck, Gates, Pasquotank. So pretty much all of the south side and the northern half of the counties that border the North Carolina-Virginia state line, just because that storm is moving so fast. Again, that warning is until 8 o'clock, so just an hour, and just that hour it's going to take to move from Suffolk to off the coast of Virginia Beach. So that's that one main storm that we're watching. There's the second one that is down in North Carolina. These two very discernible bows, bow echoes, that's what we call them, these backward seas that are right in there, bringing those very strong winds. I want to take a look. Storm reports, we haven't gotten any more, but I'm sure once we get folks, once the storm moves through, and, do need to check on some of those power outages out there too, because I imagine with winds that strong that we could have some power outages out there as well. So when Tim is going to be on the air, okay, so we're going to get ready and go to a cut in on air. So we will take a little bit of a pause here, and you'll see our on-air cut in right here on our streaming platform and also on 13 News Now. Tim?
Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with you. The entire south side is currently under a severe thunderstorm warning for the possibility of extremely gusty winds. Let's bring it full now and show you where this warning does encompass. It's coming out of Suffolk right now. It includes Portsmouth, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and all of Virginia Beach. This is cruising towards the east at 60 miles per hour, and it could be bringing wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. So considerable damage is a possibility. We can see the leading edge of the strongest of the winds right now moving through downtown Suffolk, stretching all the way up to Bennett's Creek, Bridgeport, North Suffolk, down to the state line just north of Cora Peak there, and it's moving due east. So look at the cities and towns here, moving into Deep Creek by around 7:15, Thalia around 7:28, and Creeds, if it holds together in Virginia Beach, at 7:44 tonight. Radar indications are up to nearly 65 mile per hour winds here. They could get up to nearly 70 miles per hour, certainly enough to bring down some trees. We're saturated out there. Root systems are compromised. You get a wind gust that high, it'll take down some trees and lead to some power outages as well. Again, currently located in Suffolk, moving and approaching the Chesapeake City line over to Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Chesapeake in the short term, moving to the east at 60 miles per hour. Myself, meteorologist Evan Stewart, are on 13 News Now Plus, continuing to stream this as it works on through. You can join us on there. If anything changes with this warning, we'll pop back on over to the TV side. All right, folks, we are back. Just a quick cut in over on the TV side. We're monitoring now a very strong wind core that's positioning itself just to the northeast now of downtown Suffolk. Just emerged through Suffolk. Radar indications here of 60 to 65, close to 70 miles per hour, moving into Western Branch and eventually over into Portsmouth as well. If this holds together, which it likely will, Norfolk is going to be seeing some big impacts here from some extremely gusty wind in the short term. It is moving so quickly that lead time, we don't have the benefit of extended lead time with this. So the leading edge of the strongest of the winds now moving into Western Branch, Portsmouth, and eventually into Norfolk, probably within the next 15 to 20 minutes. This cell right now looks to be our strongest across the area, and it does warn an entire several cities. I mean, it stretches through all of Southside now. It came out of the Franklin area where there still is an ongoing warning, and a brand new warning that's up until 8 o'clock that does include all of Suffolk, all of Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, stretches down into northeastern North Carolina over into Currituck and Camden, and it's moving currently through downtown Suffolk, which potentially as high as 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Evan, we've been monitoring this, and it's almost like the wind energy is getting spread out a little bit more as it pushes farther to the east, encountering what is still a pretty favorable environment. We're not even at sunset yet.
That's right. I've been watching some of the reports coming in from Dominion Energy, and we are starting to get power outages being reported back around Zuni along 460. We've got some reports around Sedley of some power outages, looking at some power outages back around Cash's Corner once you get back closer to 95. As a matter of fact, right now, Dominion's reporting over 67,000 people in their service area, and that also includes up towards Richmond with power outages. That also includes down around Lake Gaston, some of those storms that cleared through that area around Roanoke Rapids, which we were tracking earlier as well. So these storms continue to rapidly move eastward. You can see the lightning count. Earlier, we were around 1,500. You can see now that we're over almost to 2,400 in those lightning strikes. So very, very vivid lightning up along the eastern shore, where we have that one severe thunderstorm warning that continues for Accomack County up along the eastern shore. So we don't want to forget about the folks up there. That will be pushing off of the shore and into the Chesapeake Bay, probably in about another 15 minutes, as quickly as it was moving. But the two severe thunderstorm warnings along the south side that we're watching, the storm just getting ready to cross out of Suffolk over into Chesapeake, Portsmouth. So already you can see that lightning off into the distance. Probably hear some of that thunder that's moving through northern Suffolk. So if you're in Western Branch, Bowers Hill, right along 13, right by the Chesapeake Executive Airport, that's pushing through right now towards the Jolliffe area, getting up towards Deep Creek, Academy Park, in Suffolk, or in Portsmouth rather, Ahoy Acres, moving through the Great Dismal Swamp, approaching Deep Creek and Grassfield, Bear Quarter. That's that one storm. And then we have the second storm that is stretched from Reynoldson down towards Ahoskie through Gates County and into Hertford County. So that's the second severe thunderstorm warning that we have. That storm also has the considerable threat tag to it, meaning those winds of 70 miles per hour. That leads to the possibility, as we've seen, the power outages, the trees down, the power lines down. So those are the two storms that we're watching. So we take a look at some of the winds estimates. You get a little bit higher into the storm, so you're not seeing it as much with that southern storm, but certainly here with this storm that is moving out of Suffolk and into areas of Chesapeake, there's a 74-mile-per-hour estimate in there, Tim, from the radar. So that,
damaging wind gusts.
That lines up with exactly what we were saying with that warning. And storm reports, again, not getting them out there just yet, but I imagine we're going to get a lot of storm reports coming in from trees down and power lines down with this strong thunderstorm pushing through.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cell itself, when you look at it on reflectivity, it doesn't look like much. It doesn't look all that intense. But just looking at it initially, you can tell that it is a damaging wind threat with the entire cell now bowing on out. And we're finding the core of the strongest of the winds right over Western Branch right now and getting into the city of Portsmouth. So it is moving very fast to the east at 60 miles per hour. It will clear through Chesapeake within the next 20 to 25, even 30 minutes. Probably sooner than that, and then work its way into Virginia Beach. If, in fact, it does hold together, which all indications are, we're an hour out from sunset, still have the daytime heating in play. This is just going to feed on that heat energy and sustain a long-term damaging wind threat here. Keep in mind, we had a lot of rain this week, so root systems could be compromised with some of the larger trees, and you get winds gusting that high, we could have several trees coming on down, on power lines, on homes, causing damage. So that's why there's a considerable damage tag on this. Considerable threat from gusty, damaging winds here as this continues to blow on through. I think we're in the all clear now in downtown Suffolk. You can see the strongest of the winds have now set up just to the east of Nansemond, over towards Baileytown, Jolliffe area, approaching Deep Creek. It's pretty much knocking on your doorstep right now. This would be the leading edge of the strongest of the winds. In fact, let's go ahead and show the winds here on radar. See, we're getting that core of some of the strongest winds. Right now, not sampling too incredibly high, but we switch things up a little bit and move it over here. You can kind of see that there are some darker yellows. So we're getting some sampling there, 68 miles per hour, 65, Baileytown area near 50 miles per hour. So radar indications here. Oh yeah, let's take that. Evan's moving our tower camera right now to face the storm. And it's definitely an ominous looking sky view camera there as it is pushing in to downtown Norfolk here in the short term. So folks, if Paige, if we have a break coming up when? 10 minutes? Okay, we'll probably go a little bit before that because the strongest of the winds is about to move into Norfolk. So we'll probably move into coverage of that here coming up in the very short term. But regardless of that, this is pretty much it. We're watching this cell here that Evan has turned the Skyview camera on top of our studios in downtown Norfolk. There's the Elizabeth River there. We're looking towards this inbound storm that's just off to our south and west, or really just due west, and pushing its way east rapidly. So we'll probably be able to capture some of that wind coming on in because it's likely throwing up some debris with it as well. And you could definitely see the lowering cloud base farther out there. And that's going to be an interesting time lapse to look at a little bit later. But Deep Creek area right now, western branch, getting some of the heaviest of the winds, heaviest of the rain. Wind is the only threat here. No longer looking at it being a hail threat for this. And then you can see the discontinuation of the cancellation at 7:15 of the warning that was up a little bit farther to the west there as the storm obviously has cleared it. But heading further, we're going to look at central Chesapeake, Great Bridge area, Deep Creek. Gusty winds heading in your direction. Portsmouth right now getting hits, and then Norfolk, you're under the gun in about 15 minutes from now. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to air here, Evan, in just a couple minutes to cover this damaging wind threat and stay on for just a little while to make sure everybody watching is informed about what's currently approaching Norfolk with just a short lead time, unfortunately, with it moving so quickly.
Moving at 60 miles per hour, that's as fast as you drive on 264.
Great point.
Moving out towards the ocean front. So just think about the amount of time it takes you to get from downtown Norfolk to the ocean front without traffic, which happens on occasion. Mm-hmm. That's how fast this storm is moving, and those winds with it. Again, it's the same wind speed as if you were driving 60 miles per hour and you put your hand out and you can feel that wind. That's the force of the wind with these thunderstorms. And again, Suffolk pretty much out of the, just the extreme eastern Suffolk now is under that threat for the storm. It is now moving into Deep Creek, Ahoy Acres, we mentioned, right along 464 rather, approaching 464, so right around the high-rise bridge in Chesapeake. That extends all the way up towards South Norfolk. So I imagine here very, very shortly we'll start to hear some of the winds rattling here at the station as that leading edge approaches the downtown Norfolk area. Peninsula, not much of anything. We're getting a little bit of rain towards Hampton, but that's about it. The one storm up along the eastern shore is just about out of there. It's over towards Chincoteague and Assateague Island, so that's good news for the eastern shore. And that should be the end of some of those storms up there. And then we still have the storm that is through Gates County and Hertford County. And again, we do have, once again, that considerable tag that the National Weather Service has put on it, indicating that with winds of 70 miles per hour, it can do considerable damage. And as of right now, not seeing any other storm reports coming in. And
I'm not seeing wind reports as high as they were earlier. I mean, down to the south, we may be seeing a little bit higher gusts coming in. But the 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts are finding a little bit hard to find again, so that's good. But again, sometimes when we get storms this strong, they can cycle. And with it still has most of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach to go, we'll probably be finding some gustier winds working their way back in. Here's right over the naval base, 40-mile-per-hour wind. So nothing. I mean, there's still a considerable threat for 70-mile-per-hour winds. So let's wait until we come up on that break, and then we'll jump on in and cover the entire break page, okay? But again, folks, we are watching this severe thunderstorm warning that's now currently impacting Portsmouth, about to move into Norfolk, down into Chesapeake, Western Branch, Deep Creek area, over to Great Bridge. It does extend all the way down to the North Carolina state line. However, south of there...
Looks like they're about to go to break, Tim.
Okay.
Coming up here shortly.
Well, perfect. Yeah, we'll jump right in there and get a little update for our folks watching Wheel of Fortune in just a few minutes here on the TV side. And don't worry, we're going to continue streaming and stay on this for as long as we need to. Thankfully, it's only 7:20. We're looking at probably another hour worth of impacts here before things will start to really quiet down across most of the area, which is good. In fact, most of the other north of the area is much quieter this afternoon and evening. You see we've got dual severe thunderstorm warnings here, one in south side, one a little bit farther to the south and west. This storm...
Yeah, we got about another 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. So we've got another storm here over the Ahoskie area south of Franklin, producing a ton of lightning and some very gusty winds for you there as well. But our main concern, impacting our main population center, is going to be down into the south side for this severe thunderstorm warning here that's up until 8 o'clock. So a pretty prolonged period here. It was issued around 7 o'clock as it was emerging out of downtown Suffolk, and it is pushing due east right now, with overall this being the segment here, the Boeing segment that's producing the strongest of the winds and the highest likelihood of finding wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, which is the highest echelon that the Weather Service says that you may be able to find here. That's certainly capable of producing some damaging gusts to cause damage across these areas here as it continues to really move to the east. In fact, let me see if the update is here on how fast it is moving. Moving east at 50 miles per hour now, so it has slowed a little bit. Was moving at 60 miles per hour when it was initially put out. There's an updated radar imagery there. But it is moving east at 50 miles per hour at this time. So still impacting central and western Chesapeake. Has not impacted Virginia Beach yet, just starting to get in on far northwestern portions of Virginia Beach. Moving over Norfolk, we've got very gusty winds along the 64 corridor into Chesapeake, Bear Quarter, Deep Creek, Great Bridge area. Hickory still out ahead of it, so you got a little lead time there. Some gusty winds heading your direction in the next 15 minutes or so. But again, this Boeing segment here is going to be the highest likelihood area of seeing some of the wind gusts approaching 65 to 70. On that movement forward to the east at 60, I had it at 60. Let me move it down to 50 to get a little more accurate reading of arrival time. And you got to keep in mind, too, we're also getting pretty far out from the radar site. We're moving farther away from the radar, so the sampling of winds here won't be as good as it was when it was a little bit closer, but nonetheless, moving in this general direction here. Okay, there we go. There's the tower cam. So this is in Norfolk right now, looking towards Portsmouth. Elizabeth River there. You can see the low cloud deck, the rain shield coming over, and of course it's going to be accompanied by some extremely gusty winds that now, based on the most recent scans, looks to be setting up a little bit south Norfolk and points south there through the majority of Chesapeake with the strongest winds out by Grassfield, Deep Creek, Great Bridge, and down the Chesapeake Expressway, down 17, headed towards the state line. Over the Great Dismal Swamp, Lake Drummond there, moving due east and now 50 miles per hour. Sandbridge area, if it does hold together in southern portions of Virginia Beach, getting to you by around 7:40, so only 20 minutes from now. That's going to cover a lot of ground. Knott's Island at 7:45, Great Bridge coming up on you right now. Hickory at 7:24, Moyock at 7:28. So again, the gusty, damaging wind threat is going to be the main hazard here going forward. We keep on having to refresh this because it is moving so fast that the times get timed out pretty quickly. Moving to the east at 50. Let me put it out a little bit ahead of it so it can give us a little more lead time. Okay, right there, we're looking good. How much time we have until we pop in?
About a minute.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to do an on-air cut, and I know we've been teasing this for a little while now, but we were waiting to cover a commercial break with these gusty winds blowing through south side, about to approach central southern portions of Virginia Beach here with 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Here's a live tower camera or sky view camera out in Chesapeake. This is near Great Bridge. You can see the trees moving. Winds are gusting there. Wind-swept rain moving through that part of Great Bridge right now and that part of Chesapeake along, and really kind of lines up perfectly exactly with where radar is sampling some of the strongest of the winds. So be prepared in Chesapeake, in Norfolk, and Virginia Beach for some gusty, damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, as indicated by radar from the National Weather Service. Here's a look at how radar actually shapes up here. Lots of heavy rain, although the cell itself probably starting to weaken a little bit, but still capable of producing those wind gusts up to around 70 miles per hour. Again, here's a look at the velocities, wind speeds here through central Chesapeake up into southern Norfolk, into Norfolk itself, ocean view, all of us seeing some very gusty winds. Okay, let's go ahead. Hey folks, Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis joining you again. I want to give you an update on the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning that is sweeping through Southside. It is moving at 50 miles per hour, so covering a lot of ground over a short amount of time. Currently, biggest impacts being felt in Great Bridge, Deep Creek, over in the western branch, Portsmouth, southern Norfolk, down southern portions of Chesapeake, and about to approach the city line of Chesapeake into Virginia Beach in the short term here. The main hazard would be for the possibility of seeing wind gusts approaching 70 miles per hour. So there is a considerable threat for damaging winds here with this cell. Let's look at radar indicated wind speeds, okay? This is the leading line where you're seeing the brighter yellows. That's the leading line of the strongest of the wind. So here's a general timeline of where it will be impacting over the next 25 to 30 minutes, because it'll cover all of this area in that time and move offshore, moving at 50 miles per hour. So Moyock in about 4 minutes at 7:28. Virginia Beach oceanfront, 7:35. Sandbridge at 7:39. And Knott's Island, the leading edge of the strongest of the winds, moving over you around 7:46. Now, radar indications here, we're putting out 40, 50, close to 60 mile per hour gusts. As it was moving through Suffolk, we had some tags there of over 70 miles per hour. So it has downtrended a bit, but still capable of producing some damage as it's now approaching Fentress, down towards Hickory, Great Bridge right now, Deep Creek, South Norfolk, Portsmouth, Western Branch, and Norfolk itself seeing some very gusty winds. Update here on that warning. It's up until 8 o'clock tonight for those winds to quickly push into Virginia Beach within the next 20 minutes or so. Myself, Evan Stewart, are monitoring this, streaming live on 13 News Now Plus. Join us there. If anything changes, we'll pop back on here through Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy.
Hey, Tim, I was just watching, great job on that cut-in. Out at the Virginia Beach oceanfront, they have the monsters on the beach. I noticed they started telling people to come in. We said about another 10 minutes before it reaches the Virginia Beach oceanfront. I noticed the vendors, they've been out there. If we can bring up the beach camera, you'll be able to see that where they've been closing, all the vendors have been closing off all of the tents out there, and they've lined up all the monster trucks out there along the Virginia Beach oceanfront. So we have seen those people start to leave the beach out there because of this storm that, as you mentioned, Tim, is moving so very quickly at around 60 miles per hour.
And they took a considerable damage threat off with the new update here. So winds have backed off a little bit, but we're still getting gusts to 60 as a possibility.
Yeah, so here's the Virginia Beach oceanfront camera that you can see out there right now. And again, there's still some folks lined up. If we can take that full screen, you'll be able to see the Virginia Beach oceanfront out there, and the folks that are at the monsters on the beach. There you can see it out there. You can see the folks out there, and the vendors all starting to clear up and clean up out there because of that storm that is moving again at around 60 miles per hour right now, pushing through the Fentress area over towards Essex Meadows, down Battlefield Boulevard, down the Great Bridge Expressway. And then we have that second storm that is down around Parker's Fork, Kellogg's Fork, Hoffler's Fork, down into Gates County. So that's the second storm that we're watching. And into
considerable tag on it.
Yeah, and that still has the considerable tag on it. So I imagine pretty quickly we'll see another warning issued that will include Pasquotank County, again, probably the southern parts of Camden and Currituck County, and more of Chowan and Perquimans counties, because the northern part of that storm is about to exit, that little triangle of the warning there that is northern parts of Perquimans County. So we'll likely have that next warning issued coming up shortly. And still very few storm reports in the area. I imagine it's just taking a while for those to get called in, but we're still seeing those wind gusts and those estimates here. You know, there's, let's say, get in there, there's one, you know, 64, 62 miles per hour, 59, 55. So certainly some gusty winds right around Fentress. And we do have there in Fentress, we do have, you know, a reporting site. So I'll check that out and see what it's reporting there at Fentress. We should get that update pretty quickly as well. There's a 66 mile per hour estimate from radar just approaching the Fentress area. So that's the leading edge of that line. That is going to be pushing over towards Mapleton, eventually just south of the Virginia Beach Courthouse and over towards Pungo, and eventually over towards Sandbridge. That's the worst part of that storm. It extends down towards Bear Quarter and Benefit and Cornland, and then we have that next part around Parker's Fort, Kellogg's Fort, Mittensville, and Harrold'sville that's just getting ready to move into northern Chowan County and northern Perquimans County, northern Pasquotank County. Tim?
And that's up until 7:30, so we're waiting for an update here. It's obviously going to be extended, but it right now has the considerable tag on it for up to 70 mile per hour winds. You can certainly see that this is definitely the strongest. This is all the same storm here, pretty much. The same cell that's spreading out its wind energy to the southwest, and this looks to be the strongest part of it over Mittensville right now, over Gates County, dropping into northern Chowan, with gusts potentially up to 70 miles per hour. Now, in less than a minute, you see the clock up there. We're going to get an update, probably an extension of this warning all the way into the Albemarle Sound. There it is, popping on up here. And let's see what they put the tag on here for. Let's see. So no considerable tag on this anymore, meaning that, you know, wind speeds have come down a little bit, but still 60 miles per hour. I mean, I don't know many people that can tell the difference between 60 and 70 mile per hour wind gusts when you're in the middle of it. So it can certainly still cause some damage out there. And we're already starting to see some power outages. Evan, you said earlier, I know this was several minutes ago, but it was over 60,000 Dominion Power was reporting?
Yeah, looking at the latest numbers, 69,324. Wow. So, you know, and the area has been expanding now around Windsor. We're getting there's 618 just west of Suffolk, 316 downtown Suffolk, 984. So we're, you know, that's probably one of the first early indications that we get that something is going, you know, that we're going to get damage reports there, the number of power outages, because folks are pretty quick to phone in about power outages. And we do have a couple starting to come in. Let's see, just some minor ones just starting to come in Chesapeake. So, you know, I expect those will start to fill in as well as we get, you know, those further reports of the strong thunderstorm winds that have been pushing through with this line. Again, racing towards the ocean front at around 60 miles per hour. So, going to say for the most part, Norfolk is in the clear. Portsmouth, you are now in the clear. Imagine the Weather Service will be trimming off the back edge of that severe thunderstorm warning here pretty soon. This warning goes until 8 o'clock, so another half hour. That's probably when it will be making its way out towards Pungo and Back Bay, really the next 15 minutes, and it'll be offshore before 8 o'clock. And then that brand new severe thunderstorm warning that took over across northeastern North Carolina, that one is until 8:30. And that includes pretty much all of our northeastern North Carolina counties. If you're watching from all of northeastern North Carolina, other than Gates and Hertford, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning of some sort that runs until 8:30. And then as we head down towards the Outer Banks, it'll be a little bit later if that line holds together as it moves off towards the south and east. And it looks like we just lost our camera there at the Virginia Beach ocean front. So that might be a power outage. That might be a power outage. Let me check the Weston there. And let's see, do we have the Weston? Looks like we lost the Weston cam. Oh, yeah, so there must have been some kind of power hit, power snap out there out towards the Weston, which is kind of our hop out towards the Virginia Beach ocean front. We can check out the DQ camera there. And there's still folks out there at the DQ. I'll be able to pull that up here as well. And you'll be able to see, that's our Hampton camera. Let me go over here towards the DQ camera, the Virginia Beach ocean front. And there are still folks there, which I'm a little surprised because we had seen that down at Monsters at the Beach. They had started to pull those people in. So again, Virginia Beach oceanfront, what did we say that was going to be, about 7:35, 7:40?
Yeah, we're approaching less than 10 minutes, I'm sure.
Less than 10 minutes. So looks like there's still quite a few folks out there. So we'll have to watch and see if there are any alerts posted for those folks to get, to seek shelter because of that storm, working its way in right now.
Yeah, the oceanfront 5 minutes out.
Yeah. Although, looking at radar now, maybe some of the strongest part is on that southern end. Let's see if, if there are any. There's still some strong winds that are showing up, with that 40 miles per hour. So maybe that's the thinking, that it's going to pass just south of the oceanfront. That's where we're seeing some of the winds of 50 miles per hour. But still, 40-mile-per-hour winds are quite a bit, especially if you've ever been out at the oceanfront when those winds come up and it feels like you're being sandblasted. Once those winds really start to pick up some of that sand out there, and you can see out along the Outer Banks, we're seeing, now it looks like some folks are starting to move in a little bit. I thought I saw somebody running a little bit, but we have the second storm that is moving through northeastern North Carolina as well. Looks like that one is starting to, get a little bit weaker.
Yeah.
You can almost see a little bit of a meso low with that sort of spinning around.
And that one's moving at 65.
Yeah.
That one is cruising.
So the good news is that this is going to be off the coastline pretty quickly, and once this line moves through, that'll be it for a good portion of the night. There might be another cluster of thunderstorms that come through around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's not expected to be severe.
All right, why don't we go ahead and do another cut-in on air as this is about to approach the Virginia Beach oceanfront. Get one more cut-in in there on the TV side, and then we'll finish up the warning as it's going to be exiting the coastline here in just the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. So let's give people another heads up if we can over on the TV side. All right, folks, Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis back with you here this evening. We've got ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings impacting a large portion of the 13 News Now viewing area. We've got one here that's up for Chesapeake, portions of Norfolk, and all of Virginia Beach, up for a little while longer, 25 minutes until 8 o'clock. The main threat here is damaging wind gusts. Secondary down to the south, a little bit stronger of winds detected in here, up to 65 to 70 miles per hour. This one is up until 8:30 tonight, encompassing our northeastern North Carolina cities and locations. You can see the line here. It's embedded with some very heavy rainfall, but it does have the considerable tag for some very strong winds. Up to 70 miles per hour is a possibility. Now, as we look here on radar indicated wind speeds, we're only getting 40, 45, 50, maybe 60 mile per hour winds, but we are pretty far away from the radar site. The leading edge of the strongest of those winds are quickly approaching the Virginia Beach oceanfront down to Sandbridge. You can see them up here. Oceana NAS at 7:33. It just moved over you. Sandbridge coming up in 3 minutes at 7:38. It's moving to the east at 50 miles per hour. This cell to the south, moving at 65 miles per hour, is also packing some extremely gusty winds. Gregory at 7:42, Water Lily at 7:52, and Jarvisburg at 8:02 this evening. Check out some of these indicated wind speeds, nearly at 70 miles per hour just to the northwest of Elizabeth City, and that is building in your general direction. Myself, meteorologist Evan Stewart, are on 13 News Now Plus, streaming these warnings. You can join us on there. If anything changes, you'll see us back over on the TV side. All right, folks, we just continued another cut-in on the TV side. We're just on the tail end now of seeing this leading edge of the strongest of the winds hit the ocean front and then move offshore. All clear now pretty much as you get up towards the western branch. Portsmouth now, Norfolk, the strongest of the winds have now cleared your area. Still a little bit breezy, still a little rainy, but the strongest of the winds are now going to be right along Fentress, down the Chesapeake, Virginia Beach city lines, extending down to the south towards Moyock with this warning. There are two separate warnings, though. The next one here, let's see, we'll go to the south. Had it up here. Oh, I guess not. There we go. This separate one here is up for a little longer, almost an hour's worth. You can kind of see this right here. That is indicative of the core of the strongest of the winds. And this one is moving at 65 miles per hour. Let's see what some radar indications here are on wind speeds in this. Let's see. You can kind of see where that core is. There's South Mills. Okay, let's get a better sampling here. 63, 57, 55, 40. So upwards of 60-mile-per-hour winds, which is exactly what the warning was entailing the possibility of occurring. Again, just north of Parkville. There's Elizabeth City. It's heading towards you with the gusty, damaging wind threat moving in that direction fast. At 65, there's the new data getting painted on northwest of Elizabeth City there. 50 to 60-mile-per-hour winds. They have now canceled the warning up into Virginia Beach. So that is some good news there, as it looks to have significantly weakened. It was expected to go until 8 o'clock tonight, so that's a good improvement there. Now our lingering severe thunderstorm warning down in northeastern North Carolina. Evan, and that looks to be where the energy continues to be focused as we go through the next little bit until 8:30 when it's set to expire. There's that core. Look at that.
Yeah, although it does look like the core has shrunk a little bit,
yeah.
So it's not quite as strong as what it was a little bit earlier. And take a look at the radar, and you can see, back here just, half an hour ago, we had that nice Boeing line, but as we got here into the last couple of frames and go to the live radar now, that southern edge that is moving through Perquimans County, not quite as strong around Belvedere, still strong up around Lynch's Corner, and heading over towards South Mills. Still a little bit of hail. We haven't seen too many hail reports coming out of that line, and the lightning has certainly become reduced as well. So I would not be totally surprised if at some point this warning, even if this trend continues, if this warning is allowed to expire early or is canceled early, because this storm is starting to show some signs of weakening. We're getting here closer to sunset, so we're losing some of that energy. And, from the heat and the humidity of the day, things have quieted down. You can see all the lightning that was up along the eastern shore a little bit earlier. As I turn that off, you can see the warning that was up for Accomack County is now been allowed to expire. Still, as you get up into areas of Maryland and up towards Ocean Pines and Ocean City and Berlin, we still have some very heavy rain there with that severe thunderstorm warning. But things are really starting to improve. As quickly as they deteriorated in some ways, they're really starting to improve. The one warning that we have left is across our northern tier counties, and even that storm is looking like it's starting to rain itself out, sort of go through the storm life cycle and rain itself out here over northern parts of Pasquotank County and moving into northern Camden and Currituck County around South Mills, Burnt Mills. It holds together. Might clip just northern parts of Elizabeth City, but still likely some strong winds with that. There in that core, you can see 67-mile-per-hour wind gusts estimated in that core. And as we take a look at just how, it's still a very strong thunderstorm and a tall thunderstorm there with, storm heights, getting close to 40,000 feet. So that's just another indication that this storm is, it was earlier almost close to 60,000 feet, so that's some sign that it is starting to weaken a bit as well as it works its way towards the south and east. So that's the last warning that we have. And again, I think you can see just in that radar trend how everything has sort of been shrinking and coming together and coalescing around that one core. And that will be the last storm that we will probably be tracking as we go here into the evening, Tim.
Yeah, this is set to expire at 8:30. I bet it would be canceled before that. That's still 50 minutes away. But where we would focus our attention, just to the northwest of Elizabeth City, we've got one last core of the strongest of the winds, the last holdout here pretty much. Southwest of Moyock, through Burnt Mills pretty much, in Elizabeth City. If you look at that, and then we switch it up here and get a sampling of the winds, you can kind of see that mustard color here south of South Mills, north of Parkville, just to the northwest of Elizabeth City. North side already getting some gusty winds. So where's the new data getting painted on, moving into Elizabeth City right now? Radar here says, is picking up on the potential of a whole swath here of 60 to 70 mile-per-hour winds. I've already seen some pictures coming in from Suffolk where we have the northern end of this cell move through with close to wind gusts similar to that, trees down. Power outages, we're up to 74,000 Dominion power outages in the entire service area, 2.7 million customers, 74,000 are out. Not a huge number, but it's a considerable amount. especially with it being so hot, can't run your air conditioning, that sort of thing leads to a whole other bunch of issues. But South Mills, 60, 65, maybe close to 70-mile-per-hour winds, knocking on the doorstep of Elizabeth City at this time. So very gusty winds. Again, that is the only threat with these storms. Of course, you got the frequent lightning and heavy rain, but the real hazard to cause a lot of damage is the wind gusts here. And when you see this widespread yellow hue, we usually just see reds and greens. And that can help us depict where there's going to be couplets and winds moving in opposing directions. When they start to get on the higher end of the color scale, and the yellows here, and eventually we have blues too, it gets to be stronger wind gusts, more damaging wind gusts. And right here is where we're seeing the core of that. And you can see it line up really well with where we have this. This is pretty much the entire rest of the cell. I mean, down to the south here, Belvedere, Hertford, probably breezy, but not as strong of winds. And out by Moyock, you're getting the residuals of that band that moved through Southside in Virginia. So this is really it over Lynch's Corner, just to the northwest of Elizabeth City. Elizabeth City, if you're watching from there, batten down the hatches right now because you're about to see some extremely gusty winds. Again, a better sampling here with a new run, getting upwards of 50 to 65 mile-per-hour winds as depicted by radar. Again, a caveat here. We're looking at Elizabeth City, exceptionally far from the radar site out at Wakefield, so we're sampling higher up in the clouds. These are winds aloft, okay? But with the heavy rain that we're seeing here, heavy rain a lot of times and thunderstorm activity, when you get those heavy downpours, those downbursts, it drags those winds that are sampled aloft down to the ground. Could they be verifying as high as what we're showing up aloft? Probably not. But probably still 50, maybe some outlying areas seeing close to 60 miles per hour. So again, Elizabeth City, Burnt Mills, South Mills, Lynch's Corner, all getting socked with at least some very gusty winds and heavy, heavy rainfall there right now. Of course, it's loud too with some lightning and thunder, but right on through Elizabeth City at this time, getting closer to the Coast Guard station there. Heavier rain, and you can see the kind of where it's focused. This doesn't give us a great number. This might be a better, 65. We're getting over near Gregory, over 40 miles per hour. Lynch's Corner, seeing those winds back off a little bit. But this looks to be the core of it, sitting right on the north side of Elizabeth City. And Evan, that's about it out there right now, which is good. We're seeing the activity really drop. And that cell that was in Virginia Beach, look at how fast it weakened. So models were actually onto something here. All of the models, short-term models at least, today we're showing a quick dissipation of all storms before they got here. So they had the same general idea, but the weakening didn't occur until much, much later. So they were way off on the timing and intensity moving across Southside. However, if you were watching yesterday, and we talked about this on our stream, we talked about it in all our newscasts, is that the graph model, which has been performing exceptionally well on the events this past week and really for the last several months, showed this exact scenario playing out. It's a little bit later than what it was indicating yesterday, but around the same general time, same general area, a bowing segment of cells, of severe thunderstorm cells with a gusty wind threat. Verified. Worked out quite well. That's the technology, how much it's evolved. A really reliable model now, which is great to have in our arsenal of all the other computer models to forecast severe weather or any other sort of impactful weather. One last update here, before I'll send it over to you, Evan. Just Elizabeth City area seeing still some radar indications approaching 60 miles per hour aloft, moving into Elizabeth City at this time. So more gusty winds on the way as this drives to the south and east near Weeksville and Riddle.
Yeah, we've been watching these power outages come in. We're 55,000. This is the map from Dominion Energy, and it's really centered over Suffolk right now. That's where we're seeing the red. That's around Driver, and that right now is 2,700 customers. And then you get around the Hampton Roads Executive Airport over towards Deep Creek, towards Deep Creek West and Yadkin, 1,900 customers there. Downtown Suffolk around Wilroy Road, 438, 984 around downtown Suffolk. And then I expect that will just continue as this storm moves towards the east. Not as much being reported out of northeastern North Carolina just yet. That is part of a Dominion's service area. But I imagine, again, with those gusty winds that have been coming in, that we will see more of those reports coming in as well. Storm reports now. Let's see, we had a 41 mile per hour gust reported there at Raleigh Terrace and Kings Fork. tree down in Suffolk near the intersection of US 460 and US 58 around 7 o'clock. That was the one that Tim was mentioning that we saw a picture of, and some trees down up along the eastern shore. That wind gust there, 41 around Wachapreague, 48 up on Smith Island. So we are starting to get some of those storm reports coming in with this line as well. Again, only one severe thunderstorm warning left across northeastern North Carolina. The core of that storm is now just pushing north of Elizabeth City, and north of Elizabeth City proper, really lined up right there along 343 from South Mills over towards Burnt Mills and Bellcross, approaching Gregory. We'll wind that out a little bit. Not as strong up there near Tulls. I'm not going to be surprised, Tim, if they decide if the Weather Service decides to cancel this severe thunderstorm warning here in the somewhat near term. Still seeing some of those winds with it, but it is definitely, that storm has definitely weakened quite a bit, or at least the center and the core has shrunk down to a much smaller area.
Yeah, they're probably going to wait till it moves through Elizabeth City once it clears that downtown area. But yeah, as you mentioned, it is shrinking. Overall, these were much more significant just an hour ago, and that's how much area it's covered. I mean, these were up through I-95 just 90 minutes ago. And now they're pushing out of the area. The one to the north in Virginia Beach is now just a remnant downpour, gusty downpour with no warning on it, no residual warning on it. This one here just north of Elizabeth City has the core of the strongest winds, and that's all we can find right now. Still the possibility of seeing 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Weather Service has this warning up. Let me see how fast this is moving, because it doesn't seem like it's moving as, it says it's moving east at 65. I mean, doesn't seem like it's moving that fast to me, but let's put it on the last hour and see if it is covering a ton of ground. Oh, I guess so. Up towards Cora Peak and then shooting off to the southeast there, now just north of Elizabeth City. And may just scoot the northern side and then just go right down the river there, right over the Coast Guard station, and eventually hitting southern portions of Camden and Currituck, too. They're all under the warning, by the way, until 8:30. So still 40 minutes on it, but with it still maintaining that speed, it'll be down into southern Currituck by the time we get to 8:05 or so. The next 10, 15 minutes, it'll be out there. That's how fast it's moving and how much it should clear the area in a rather fast pace. So here's a look again at the core of some of the strongest of the winds. So you're probably finding this over Bellcross. There's a new update for you. And actually, it looks like it weakened a little bit. No, still 65, 67. Near Gregory, 48. So again, you may be looking at this and be like, well, wow, but I'm in Elizabeth City. It's not that windy. Well, you need to look at what we're looking at here. So this is wind speed from radar site being very far away to the northwest in Wakefield. We're sampling winds aloft here pretty much. We're not getting the winds down close to the surface. We did have that luxury earlier, though, as this cell actually moved right over the Wakefield site, so we were very close to that, so we got a sampling closer to the ground. Now we're shooting up several thousand feet, and that's the wind speeds at several thousand feet above the ground. But the thing is, when you do get the heavy rainfall associated with the gusty winds that are aloft, that heavy rain works to drag down the stronger winds and helps them to verify close to what you're reading aloft, but never really as high as that. You're probably seeing wind gusts here of 50 miles per hour near Bellcross, Lambs Road, Burnt Mills, Creek Road, and here's Elizabeth City. So it looks like the core of the strongest winds is moving right down the river there, near River Road, to the northeast of downtown Elizabeth City. So you may just miss out here. And there's a radar update for you. Again, yeah, it is setting up pretty much right there through Bellcross and Burnt Mills, just to the north and east of Elizabeth City at this time. With that new radar sweep, we should have some new data here. Still sampling 60, 65. So, I mean, again, it's aloft, but still very windy in this area. And they'll likely continue this warning for at least a little while longer. I don't see any update or any chatter of them what they're thinking about doing.
Yeah, we have seen the watch be dropped for the peninsula, the middle peninsula, the northern neck, interior south side. So Suffolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and northeastern North Carolina is still under that severe thunderstorm watch. But I imagine here, once this storm pretty much clears towards the southeast, they'll drop the watch. At least for the south side, there's still some of those lingering thunderstorms just north of north of Accomack County, up into areas of Maryland, that are still a little bit potent, and that's why I think we'll see that watch that might hang on just in case any more of those try to drift southward, although it looks like they're really pushing up towards southern New Jersey and up towards Lewis, where you take the Lewis Cape May ferry across there, and then up around Ocean City, Maryland, and then Virginia Beach is just seeing some light rain, and just that one warning, and it looks like they did chop off part of that.
They're going to continue it until 8:30.
Yep. So, and that makes sense. Certainly, there's that one core part of the storm that is still has to work its way towards the south and east. So if you're around Gregory, Riddle, over towards Poplar Branch, up towards Water Lily, Idlet, Knott's Island, you're getting some moderate rain. You're probably not under the risk for that strongest part of the storm. But, we have to watch it as it crosses over the Currituck Sound. And even as it's crossing over the Pasquotank River, you can get a little bit of, sometimes you can get a little bit of a water spout trying to spin up. And, once that, again, emerges there off of the mainland Currituck County and goes over to the Currituck Sound and the Outer Banks of Currituck County, we'll have to watch that, even around Corolla and to the north. And then as you get down a little bit farther, down towards the county line, we'll have to watch that for some gusty winds as it's blowing across the sound.
Yeah, and Evan, something that we kind of dealt with, I'm not sure why it's not really filling in here. Let's see, the 1 hour. Rainfall.
Oh, yeah, rainfall. Yeah, we haven't looked at that.
So we had our big issues the last couple of days were slow-moving downpours that were causing flash flooding. Didn't have that as an issue today because of the storm motion. You saw them moving 50, 60, 65 miles per hour. So rainfall here, last 3 hours, even if we tag some of these, they're coming in well under an inch of rain over that amount of time, too. So that's how fast they were moving. They didn't have time to deliver enough rain to cause any flooding. Now, keep that in mind. We are saturated from the past day's rain, but just not enough to have that be a really hazard that is worth mentioning. It's really the gusty winds, and eventually earlier it was the possibility of some hail, even though the highest hail tag I saw was up to an inch. Yesterday we had tags of 2.5 inch diameter hail in some of the slower moving downpours that were just able to build up and sustain themselves for a little longer. These were moving just a little bit too fast to do that, and they're now encountering some slightly more stable air, especially the one to the north here that hit the coast and really fell apart fast. This thing was packing 70-mile-per-hour winds as it moved through Suffolk over into Deep Creek and Western Branch, and then as it moved east over Fentress, it started to back down and then fell apart just before it hit the ocean front. Still was very windy out there at the Virginia Beach ocean front, but wind gusts came down, thankfully, in those areas. Still one last ongoing severe thunderstorm warning, again, for 35 more minutes, even though it's cruising to the southeast now. I believe in the update it's at 60 miles per hour on the, let's see. No, still at 65.
And Virginia Power updated numbers, 84,000.
Okay, so jumped another 10,000, yeah. So plenty of power outage out there. I even got a text from my mom in North Suffolk saying that, they lost power and TV and anything that they should know, I should text her. So there's that. That's why we stream on here, and that's why we live stream on our website and YouTube. And so you have multiple areas to kind of get these types of alerts, as well as with the app. If you don't have the app, download it. You're going to get those warnings right to your phone. Geofences where you are, geotags you, and will send out the warnings if you're in a warning. So pretty good heads up for that. And then, of course, we'll jump on here and let you know what's going on with radar imagery and that sort of thing. But again, here's a radar sweep of wind gusts. It looks like it's even getting a little bit, we're farther away, though. This large area here near Belvedere and Hertford, probably breezy aloft, but we just don't have the accompanying very heavy rain there to pull down those gusty winds to the surface. Just have that here near Gregory, and now situated just east of Elizabeth City. So mainly moving east, the trajectory on this at 65, but it did have a southeast component earlier. So now we're really coming towards Poplar Branch, Water Lily, over Gregory now, moving north of Jarvisburg and Southern Shores, Grandy, next 30 minutes or so until the warning is set to expire here. We'll see if they even carry it that long with it gradually on a weakening trend in these areas. Do we have any, let's do a quick little sky view tour, see what's going on across the area, especially out by the ocean front. Oh, look at that. That's a beautiful image out by Nauticus, looking over the Elizabeth River. So now we've got some late evening clearing, too, right before the sun goes down, which hasn't even happened yet. It happens at 8:05 tonight. So still a little bit of time. And we had talked about this being a quick-moving ordeal. With them moving so fast, they're going to be in earlier, out earlier. And that's exactly what we're seeing shaping on up. A lot of outdoor events. So I'm interested to see how things went with the Chesapeake Jubilee, Norfolk Greek Festival that was underway today. how they handled that and if they did have any issues with that wind. Again, the Greek Festival's under this big tent. Jubilee, lots of big tents. They're anchored, but a lot of them aren't really rated for winds, 65 or 70 miles per hour even. I'm not sure what they're rated for, actually, but may not be. But we had that coming on through Southside earlier. So look at these beautiful images. That's above our studio here, and that's out by the Jordan Bridge. So everybody's seeing some improving conditions, exception being Elizabeth City or just east of you there, out by Gregory. That's the only area that's seeing some inclement weather right now.
That's where we, some of those black images were where we lost the camera.
Yeah.
Probably because of a power hit out there in Virginia Beach. So we'll have to get those cameras reset and stuff. But yeah, still that one lone warning down across northeastern North Carolina. Power outages up to about 84,000. And that number will likely continue to go up. I know there's a big section in Chesapeake now that's out around the Riverwalk. So that's getting close over to the hospital. There's a big section up in near Kempsville Gardens and Kempsville Lake, Pocahontas Village. So yeah, that is right there, up around town center. So that's probably why we've, lost some of those cameras out of Virginia Beach. Even if the power hit, we still have to go out and do a reset on them. Some power outages up towards Portsmouth right now, up around Churchland. A few customers out. Northern Suffolk is probably another big area around Driver, Nansemond River High School, Wilroy. So there are those sporadic power outages around the area that we've been watching, and then that one lone warning that is holding on. I would say for the most part, if you're up towards Knott's Island, if you're around Elizabeth City, if you're in Nixonton, you're still under that warning. You're probably out of that threat for that part of the storm as it works its way towards the southeast. This is just going to be an hour loop, and it kind of gives you an idea of just how quickly those storms were moving just in the span of 1 hour. Let me widen it back out a little bit more so you can just sort of see that movement. So in the span of an hour, it made that much, 60, 65 miles per hour.
There you go.
So there we were just, that's faster than you should be on 264. Heading out towards the ocean front. So the last areas really are down here in Camden County, moving over into Currituck County. Right now it's right straddling the Camden-Currituck County line around Gregory and Riddle, approaching Poplar Branch, Grandy, Mamie, Spot, Harbinger, Old. Might not make it quite that far down towards Spot and Harbinger, but certainly central Currituck County. Then we'll watch and see what happens as it crosses over the Currituck Sound.
Yeah, and if this works, so these are the areas here that yesterday, 24-hour rainfall total, we're getting rain now and the severe thunderstorm warning. Same area as we worked to the south yesterday. It was in the southern portions of northeastern North Carolina near the Albemarle Sound, and then south of the Albemarle that saw the brunt of yesterday's impactful weather, very heavy rain. And you can see residuals here still within the last 24 hours. This is the amount of rain, which is like 2 to 3 inches in these areas. And they're adding on to that currently with the rain that's coming on down with this still warm cell. And as Evan mentioned, it is not, impacts are not being felt through the entire polygon. Okay, Knott's Island, not feeling anything except some rain. Moyock, you're in the clear. Nixonton in the clear. Elizabeth City proper in the clear, although they did issue a special alert for the Coast Guard station there for the gusty winds coming across the river there. But it's really Gregory, Poplar Branch, and then pretty much east-southeast this way. Okay, heading into southern Currituck County, south of Corolla, over the next 30 minutes. And at the speed, Evan went back and showed you how much ground it covered. It's moving at 65. So at that speed, if it maintains, it would put it clear offshore within the next 30 minutes, which lines up perfectly with the expiration time on this warning. So Weather Service knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Up for another 30 minutes here, and that would put it offshore and clearly out of the area, not impacting anybody anymore. But it's really just, southwest of here, not going to be impacted by this. It's really anywhere east, southeast, really, Water Lily, Poplar Branch, maybe to Grandy, maybe to Jarvisburg. But generally pushing due east at 65. Gregory just getting smacked right now with some heavy rain and potentially still some gusty winds. It's starting to look a little bit more disheveled here, a little more spread out. It's no more, not really focused winds, so some gusty conditions here. Could these gusts get up to 50 miles per hour or potentially a little bit higher? Sure.
Yeah, Tim, I just want to take a look at some of these storm reports that we got in, and I hope somebody at our desk is listening in. Got a report here from Western Branch. Tree fell on an apartment building and partially collapsed the building. So that was at 7:19. So the folks at the desk certainly make some calls.
I'll go and let them know
on that. Churchland, tree down on near the Churchland Bridge in Portsmouth. Trees down in the vicinity of Tire Neck Road and Norfolk Road causing power outages. We saw the one in Suffolk. And we also had that report, a report come in out of the Elizabeth City Coast Guard base of a wind gust of 60 miles per hour. So that sort of verifies with the severe thunderstorm warning. It was forecast to have winds of 65 miles per hour, wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And that's what we saw there at the Coast Guard base. But that's the latest storm report that just came in. So we'll definitely want to check that out. Let's see, that wind gust that was out there. Mentioned it earlier, Middle Ground Lighthouse, 41 mile per hour gust. But certainly that tree down in Western Branch, that is something that we'll certainly make some calls on. Yeah, again, tree down on an apartment building and partially collapsed the building. We don't have the name of that. That's usually not put in these storm reports, but certainly a storm that, you know, as it blew through, we certainly had those winds gusting around here, and we still have that one warning until 8:30. Let's take a look at some of those winds. Again, we're getting farther and farther away from the radar site, but still we're seeing some wind gusts in the upper parts of the storm around 50 miles per hour and some just offshore in the 60 mile per hour range.
Looking up on Pulse Point, Evan, to see if we have any in Western Branch. Let's see. Don't see anything. No, I see some power line calls down.
Yeah, wires arcing on Shillelagh Road, Mount Pleasant Road.
Yeah, not seeing any recent calls for that. Interesting. Okay.
And Portsmouth's not on Pulse Point, so we wouldn't see them.
Yeah, more and more power outages here out over.
Yeah, out in Suffolk, Bennett's.
Yeah. Chesapeake too, Butt Station, 1,700 customers out. Still at 85,000.
Main Street, Kings Highway, Godwin Boulevard, Pineview Road, Quaker Drive. Well, there is this one. Yeah, there is this one on and again, sometimes we, when it says structural collapse, there was one in Suffolk reported on Lee Street, but that one's already been closed. So yeah. So yeah, there you can see some of those power outages being reported again in Suffolk. We're up to almost 86,000, a big area in Virginia Beach now, and Chesapeake. So that's around Butt Station, Blackwater Road. That's a large area with power outages as well, which sort of makes sense. Still not getting too many reports out of North Carolina, but again, with a 60 mile per hour gust, I imagine, down there in the Elizabeth City area, we're going to see some of those power outages coming in as well.
Yeah, and we're still just kind of holding steady until we get this warning to expire. I mean, it has been trending weaker and weaker, raining itself out now. It's moving quickly to the east at 60 to 65 miles per hour. And it has this little nodule here, now pretty much right over Currituck, pushing east. And it's got some winds that probably are maybe maxing out at 45 to 50 miles per hour, indicated by radar here, where we've really lost there's the new data getting painted on. Let's see what always that way. We go back an hour, and you can see here just how far it's come. It's come out, emerged out of Franklin. There were some wind gusts there clocked on radar. We were much closer to the radar site. Follow Currituck County down and impact portions of holds together. I mean, this warning's up for 23 more minutes. They just scaled it back, didn't they? That just changed, or am I?
Changed.
Okay, it's still up there. Yeah, no changes on it. Still a possibility of 60 mile per hour winds. And what's also different about this that you'll notice as we were going through these warnings all evening long, they would usually issue updates to these that would have a threat caliber almost, if you will. So some of these were threat considerable, There were numerous of those, actually. And that's when the maximum wind does get up and over 65 to 70 miles per hour. So we had numerous warnings of those. But as they've been weakening, we've seen that kind of disappear from the warning verbiage, and it's now just max winds at 60, which I don't think we're seeing that anymore in this cell here. It is noticeably weakening here as it's moving due east. It's 65. We'll be clearing the coast within the next 20 minutes or so. Some lingering rain with it, but that's really about it. And our concern is no longer for widespread wind damage. It'll be much more isolated in nature here. And Evan's been going through all the storm reports that after an event like this, with it moving so fast, and we start to see them come in after things wrap up. And that's what we've been seeing, a trickle of some considerable damage in some spots where they saw the strongest of the winds, correct?
Yeah, that's what it's sounding like. You know, we had that wind gust down in Elizabeth City a little bit earlier, so I imagine we're going to get some reports from Elizabeth City, a 59-mile-per-hour wind gust there, so near 60. Trees down, you know, in Suffolk, trees down in Ivor, and the big one, you know, and again, we'll have to get some confirmation. This was from emergency management, that a tree fell on an apartment building and partially collapsed the building. Of course, we at this point don't know that it just get a little bit of an edge, you know, what portion of the building was hit. But we definitely have our desk working on that. Trees down near the Churchland Bridge in Portsmouth. This was all around 7:20 as that storm was really moving through. Trees down in the vicinity of Tire Neck Road and Norfolk Road in Portsmouth. Still about 86,000 people without power across the area. And of course, as Tim mentioned, on a hot day like today, when we had heat index, feels like temperatures up around, you know, 100 degrees in some spots. Certainly you don't like to be without that air conditioning. But yeah, Tim, just that one last warning.
Yeah.
Here for another 20 minutes coming up here. Now that we're at 8:10. But definitely, well, you know, we're hardly seeing any red with that storm. It still probably has some residual winds with it. It's still pushing those winds, but certainly not, you know, what we were seeing as even if we back it up here, you know, just less than an hour ago when it was coming through Gates County and stuff.
Yeah. And I'm comfortable with wrapping our coverage at 8:15 today with the downward trend in intensity here and it hitting the coastline and moving offshore in the short term. We can wrap things up in about 5 minutes. But look at this. You can tell where it rained. Rain-cooled air is a beautiful thing. 67 now out at Ahoskie, 74 out at Newport News, 67 in Emporia. And we're even down to 70 at Chesapeake, but still, Currituck hanging on to 84 here at 8:11 at night. So these will drop too with that rain moving over you at this current time. But rain-cooled air, areas that saw the rain, it's going to be very muggy tonight, unfortunately. Maybe some areas of fog developing too by tomorrow. But eventually tomorrow we will start to see our winds turn westerly, and that's going to give the boot to that humidity and keep it away for several days. Really, Saturday afternoon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, looking nice and comfortable, what it should feel like here in the middle of May, with dew points back down in the 50s. Today, they were flirting with 70 degrees. In fact, we can talk about temperature because that was also a big deal today. We had our third 90-degree day at Norfolk International so far this year, a little bit ahead of schedule. I mean, we had our first on April the 6th, and we've had 3 since. Look at these numbers. Well, I got to reload this to show you what Norfolk got to. I think they actually hit 91 as well. Yeah, 91. Look at Virginia Beach. A lot of 90s today. Franklin got to 92. But dew points today, 70. So it did feel at a time between 95 and 98 degrees in the afternoon. So we had that bubbling up of the daytime heating that really set the stage for these storms to have a lot of wind energy to work with. And we saw that play out with several severe thunderstorm warnings and a lot of wind damage as a result. So folks will be spending this weekend likely cleaning up some limbs and trees down, leaves blowing all over the place. If you had outdoor furniture around, things obviously got tossed in winds that were that strong. But this is what's left down to the south here in portions of northeastern North Carolina. And this is a shell of what it was. Weakening here. It's still up for 18 minutes, this warning. For some winds to 60 miles per hour, I'll tell you, we're not seeing that anymore. If anything of wind gusts, 40 miles per hour at best. We're looking at gusty showers now with some claps of thunder and lightning in there over portions of Currituck County, and it is within minutes of moving east and offshore because it has been cruising at 65 miles per hour, so covering a lot of ground over a short amount of time. So in just a couple minutes from now, we're going to wrap up our coverage here at 8:15 tonight. This is set to expire a little while after that, but with a downtrend in intensity, we feel comfortable wrapping things up. We've been with you all afternoon, pretty much through from 4 o'clock. We were on the TV side, and once we got off air at 6:30, we joined the stream here on 13 News Now Plus. We appreciate you joining. This was an impactful event, and it was very well forecast by computer models, showing that this was a possibility 48 hours ago. So plenty of lead time, and all of our meteorologists put out early warnings on this, that it was going to be a possibility, even though some models were saying, it may just all weaken as it pushes into our area. Did not do so. So we saw a lot of wind damage as a result, and one last residual warning here up until 8:30 tonight. Evan, any additional storm reports out there?
No additional reports coming in that I've gotten. We've checked in with Chesapeake, and they didn't have the report of the building, the apartment, but that's right there by the Chesapeake-Portsmouth line. So we're checking with Portsmouth as well to double check that report, since it did come in from an emergency manager. So we are checking in on that. In power outages, as we take a look at those, still holding around 85,000. Some big areas right now coming in Virginia Beach, around the driver section of Suffolk out towards Bowers Hill, Western Branch. So again, that kind of ties into that whole Western Branch, Ahoy Acres, Churchland area, where we also had that report of, quite a few trees down. And let's see, no more storm reports coming in. We did have a wind gust, reported at 60 miles per hour, as we had mentioned earlier.
Oh, wow, where was that?
What did I say, 59?
Yeah, where was that?
That was at Elizabeth City, at the Coast Guard base.
Wow.
46 out at Back Bay. So that was there in southern Virginia Beach. So we did have some of those reports of those strong gusty winds as well. And then numerous trees down, in Suffolk and in northern parts of Southampton County up around Ivor.
Okay, wow. And as we wrap things up here tonight, Evan, I do want to leave our viewers with a look at the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for tomorrow. So this was our 4th weather impact alert in a row. Tomorrow was originally slated to be a weather impact alert, as our outlook for severe weather was elevated. It was up to a level 2 out of 5 like it was today. Updates from the Storm Prediction Center, though, did lessen that threat potential for tomorrow. And we've been saying, too, over the last few days, modeling just wasn't suggestive of there being an ongoing threat into Saturday. It was really going to be late Friday, maybe in the overnight, but you can see everything cleared out. But the chance is still minimal for an isolated strong to severe storm tomorrow. So I will tell you, if there is anything that pops up and is strong or severe, meteorologist Taylor Stephenson will be on tomorrow morning on 13 News Now Daybreak, and Hunter Forrest takes over the wheel on in the afternoon. So they'll be monitoring things. There's a level 1 out of 5, so it's not a zero threat, but we'll continue to monitor things here going through the weekend. So you can always tune in to 13 News Now Plus or on the TV side as well. On behalf of Evan Stewart and myself, we appreciate you joining us. This has been an active weather week for sure, Evan. We've done a lot of coverage on here over the past couple of days, amounting to 8 to 9 hours together, talking about storms, walking our viewers through the various threats.
And the good news is next week looks quite a bit quieter.
Yes, so you won't see us maybe for a couple of days in terms of severe weather, but of course we'll be updating the weather regardless. But enjoy the rest of your Friday. Things are clearing on out, and we'll monitor what happens for tomorrow. But as of right now, low severe threat for your Saturday.